One morning, Edward was waiting to pick up passengers from Thomas's train. Peep, peep! We're late. Where is Thomas? He doesn't usually make us wait.
Okay. Seems like we are continuing stories that involve Edward here. Hey, I'm down for that. Edward hasn't been featured enough anyway. Yikes. He doesn't look happy here, though. Rarely would anyone ever witness that, either. We all know Edward for being kind, caring, and helpful. But when you're late dropping off passengers, this guy is triggered. But in all honesty, anyone who's trying to keep a tight schedule would be impatient at this moment anyway. Even his drivers were fooling around until they decided to do one last check, but all they saw was Bertie flying down the roadway and they didn't want to stop him. So with that, they left Wellsworth Station. However, what they did not know was that Bertie was racing to catch them.
Stop, stop! I've got Thomas's passengers, wailed Bertie, roaring up to the gates. It was no good. Edward was gone. Bother, said Bertie.
I love the way Ringo delivered that line. Bother! The reason Bertie was doing this was because of Thomas's fireman calling out of work. Now, I get that in this universe, cell phones don't exist, but it amazes me that nobody else was notified of this delay. So what if cell phones aren't available? They still have regular telephones. This ain't the Stone Ages. But this setback wasn't going to stop Bertie. Both he and his driver felt that they needed to keep their promise no matter how ridiculous the rundown might become. And thus, Bertie started off again, determined to catch Edward at the next station. So let's kick in that catchy cue for him, shall we?
I'll catch Edward or bust, said Bertie.
Gotta love that tune. It's so upbeat in attitude, even if the situation is a bit tense in nature. The thing is, when racing Thomas back in Season 1, it was probably more evenly matched. Maybe. But here, Bertie's up against Edward, an upgrade from that of Thomas. He's an engine with more wheels, more traction, more fuel intake, more kinetic energy output, and more everything. This is something Bertie is really going to have to work for, which in some ways is fun to watch. Bertie sounded fairly confident when challenging Thomas to a race. Here, however, Bertie's driver really needs to put the pedal to the metal, perhaps a little more than what Bertie is used to. I guess you could say Bertie is really getting his mileage worth? Some ways out, Bertie found Edward stopped at a crossing and he quickly raced down to gain some distance. Unfortunately, he only made it right when Edward left. Oy, that sucks. However, Thomas's passengers were still optimistic and encouraged Bertie to try one more time, because, you know, third time is usually the charm. And with that, they started again. Oh, wow. If Bertie's tires are screeching, that means he's really making some wear and tear on those treads. Maybe he should join Vin Diesel in the Fast and Furious franchise. I could see it now. By the way, did you notice that key change in Bertie's theme? This type of musical technique is not unheard of, but it does renew the sound and elevates the excitement all the more. Now you really want Bertie to beat Edward, right? I know I do. Well, in the end, though, he didn't. But he was able to reach Edward in time at Sudbury Station to transfer Thomas's passengers. Both Edward and Thomas's passengers were pleased with Bertie's efforts.
3 cheers for Bertie, called the passengers. Thank you, Bertie, said Thomas. You're a very good friend indeed.
Nice. That pretty much sums up the whole episode. So far, everything Bertie has participated in has been an enjoyable experience. Being that Bertie and Thomas met under somewhat strained conditions for the first time, seeing that Bertie was willing to help out Thomas shows that they both have developed quite the friendship between each other. I'm sure if Thomas's fireman didn't come into work and Bertie met him for the first time, Thomas would have been very reluctant to hand over his passengers to a red bus whom he's never met. So to see that play out and be matured in the narrative itself is awesome. And kudos to Bertie for working as hard as he did. He may have not beaten Edward, but then again, could he really? It's like racing a bicycle to a motorcycle. It's unlikely one would ever come in first on a bicycle. However, the fact that Bertie stuck it out and his passengers kept pushing him were all the right attitudes. How does that Thomas and Friends song go? Never, never, never give up. It was also good to see Edward again, although something should really be done with him. These entries do feature Edward, but so far he's only had one major episode to himself. Even the cows episode before this was limited in his character arc. And yet, it was interesting to see him a little disgruntled this time. Normally we see Edward being content with whatever he's doing. But here, whoo! He looked like someone kicked his wheels that morning. Don't make Edward wait, man. Then there's the set pieces. We got a couple new locations to point out. The area where we see Bertie try to meet Edward the first time was at Sudbury Junction. Then at the end, we see them both meet at Sudbury Station. We've seen Lower Sudbury Station, but not Sudbury Station itself. The Branch Line Bridge and Wellsworth Station were cool to revisit again, too. But making the entry as good as it could be was, of course, the music. Bertie's theme is a blast, and the fact that Campbell and O'Donnell tweaked his theme to a different musical key really helps it engaging the viewers. It's more or less an extension of that motif more than a separate theme, which makes it all the better. A decent story, no doubt. Next episode is Saved from Scrap. Thanks for watching.